back. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the podcast, Come Over for Dinner. We are so glad you're here. We have a very special guest today. Her name is Bekah, and when I said before that I am hosting experts in the field of hospitality, inviting people over for dinner, she is one of the top experts I will ever have the pleasure of interviewing.
I doubt it.
Her husband is president of New St. Andrews College, and she is their event coordinator, and she puts on so many large dinners, and besides that has college students of her own. She has friends over. She has lots of people from church over. She hosts all the time. So I'm going to let her tell us a little bit about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This is very fun to be on your podcast. I end up doing a lot of events, partly just because my husband is the president of New St. Andrews, and so that just kind of comes with the territory. But then, yes, I am also sort of specifically tasked with hosting some of the official college events or coordinating them, figuring out how to make those work. So I usually do, over the course of a school year, I would have each of the classes for a dinner. I do a weekly soup night on Tuesdays for the freshmen, some of the freshmen, so they cycle through, but we have them every Tuesday. And, there's faculty dinners and staff dinners and the faculty and staff Christmas party, and there's a full school and staff and faculty banquet. That's probably the biggest one that we do in the fall. And stuff like that.
About how many people would you say are at these events?
Soup night is usually, this year, a couple years ago, we were doing the whole class at the same time. So that was about 60 to up to 70 a week. Then that just got too big. We couldn't fit. So we cut it down and we've organized it differently. And everybody goes somewhere for a soup night, but they don't all come to my house every week. So this year it's probably 30 to 40 per week. And so that's soup night. Yeah, the class events, it's probably, it depends on the class.
It depends on the class size.
So this year, when I do the sophomore one, it will be 90.
And the freshman breakfast was
freshman
over 100.
Breakfast, that's right. That was last week. Was that last
I
week?
Helped
you
with that,
were there.
And I was amazed.
I think it was 99. I think we had 99 students there for breakfast.
That was pretty incredible.
The one that's got me feeling a little bit of trepidation right now is the fall banquet, because I think that's going to be probably 350 to 400.
Is that the whole
maybe.
School?
That, yes, plus the staff and faculty.
Wow.
So.
And you have a picnic coming up for the whole school.
Actually, yeah, you're right. No, that one's on Friday. And that one is also probably 350.
Wow.
So maybe, who knows? Because they might not all stay, but I have to be prepared for 350.
Speaking of her soup night, she has put out a book. She's done it for so many years that she has perfected how she does it and her recipes. She has put out a cookbook called Soup Night Slapdashery. Cooking for big crowds made simple. And the first section, it's divided into two sections. And the first section it does tell how to make the amounts for large crowds. So what she's talking about here, when you're trying to think about 40, 50, 60 people coming over, it is there laid out in detail with the correct amounts for you, so it makes it super simple. The second half of the book breaks it down into more of a family-sized portion.
Yeah,
right?
Same recipes, but reasonable.
Yes, more reasonable. So you could try it out on your own family, see if it's a favorite or one, or a lot of times you want to. Well, I break this rule, but I always tell myself, don't serve guests something you haven't tried.
That is a rule that everyone tells you, and I can't abide by it.
Not, especially like with dessert. I always, that recipe looks good. I'll try it. So-and-so's coming over on Friday.
Sometimes it works great. Other times
I have a nightmare of a story to tell you.
Yeah, I do.
Well, I was young and married and had someone in the church had a baby, and I was supposed to be carrying dinner to them. And in my recipe book of handwritten cards someone had given me, I think it was a wedding shower gift where everybody contributes a handwritten recipe, a family favorite, which is very nice. But I thought, well, this recipe looks good. I'll take it to the new mom. And it was some sort of layered thing, and the bottom layer was black beans, and then it just built from there. I don't know if it's kind of like a 7-layer dip or what, but anyway, it wasn't very good. But I had to take it because dinner was being served like in the next 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It wasn't good, and there was comments later from the new mom about beans not working out so well with the new baby. After that, I was like, okay, note to self.
Yeah.
Really think through the recipe. Really think through beans when you're serving to a new crowd. But yes, also maybe you should test it out beforehand because had I made it, I would have known, this isn't really... isn't really what I want to serve.
Isn't destined
to anyone else
to become featured on my podcast.
No. You will never see this recipe.
You will never post a link.
I think it went the way of the trash can. But anyway, so in the back of her, or the second half of her book, you can look through and whatever recipes stand out to you, you can make them for your family. And if you think they're amazing, then you can look at the front part of the book and say, okay, I'm ready to scale up. We're going for a crowd of 40 or 50 or whatever it is. Okay, so where can we find this cookbook if somebody wants to buy it?
At Canon Press. So go to Canon Press's website. I do believe at this very instant they are back ordered, but they have another shipment coming. Okay. So anyway.
Okay, so canonpress.com is where you find it. And Canon is spelled C-A-N-O-N, press.
Yeah.
P-R-E-S-S.com. Okay, so can you give us, obviously in this soup night book, there's lots of different menus, but can you share one particular menu that you might think of serving if you were inviting a crowd over?
Yeah, I mean, soup night I feel like was a funny addition to our lives because I actually wouldn't usually serve soup if I was having company over. I would usually try and do something a little bit more, I don't know. But I just knew if I'm inviting 50 students over every single week, it has to be sustainable. It has to be one pot. It has to be something I can make happen every week. But that's not actually the way I would probably entertain if I was just having a family over. If I was, say I wanted to have a family from church or something come over, I probably wouldn't serve them a pot of soup. So that's why it's a bit funny that I have a soup cookbook.
So your next cookbook is going to be
something else.
A non-soup night slapdashery.
So when you said recipe, I was thinking like, okay, what would I serve to say? And it's hard to think of right now because I feel like we're in that transition between seasons when you just suddenly don't feel like you actually know how to cook anything.
Yes.
In
the heat of August, who wants to cook?
Yeah.
Who wants to eat?
Because it's not, I don't know, like the excitement of grilling is kind of past, but you're not yet into the soups and stews.
Right, it's not cold enough.
Time. You don't want to make a roast. Yeah. But anyway, one old favorite that I make just for our family, but I would also maybe crack it out for company, is an Indonesian chicken that is super easy to make. And it's just an interesting, different, I don't know. I guess maybe it's not, when I think about it, maybe it's not all that different, but
it sounds unique. I don't think I've ever made an Indonesian chicken.
We had it the first time in Holland, actually. We were staying with friends in Holland, and we suddenly realized that in Holland, Indonesian food is like our Mexican food. Like it's just everywhere. So it's like in England, it's Indian food.
Right.
And in America, it's Mexican food. And in Holland, it's Indonesia because that was one of their colonies. So anyway, it's a kind of spicy peanut sauce over chicken on rice.
Amazing.
And then you cook green beans and just sort of dump the green beans over the top.
So it's a one-dish meal?
Yeah, so I usually serve it on a big platter where you do like a pile of rice and then you put the peanut chicken over the top and then you pile the green beans. So it's kind of like pretty and colorful and dramatic looking, and then sprinkle it with some chopped green onions and serve it with peanuts to top. And it's just different. It's tangy and a little bit spicy and, you know.
That sounds very unique and just something that your company probably hasn't had, or at least, sometimes if you cook a roast or spaghetti or, something like that, that may be something that they've just made the night before.
Yeah.
But this, you're likely to surprise them.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. And I mean, with all the people who, might be gluten-free or whatever, it's rice, so that's nice. But also, don't serve it to somebody with a peanut allergy.
That's true. That's
So
true.
you might want to double check that.
One hot tip that I have had to think about when I invite company over, I try to send out a text to whoever's coming, are there any allergies in the family? Or do you have any allergies?
Yeah.
Just to be aware of that, because you're right. You don't want to have somebody show up that has a peanut allergy and you've forgotten to tell them that.
Would you like a green bean?
Right. We have no food for you. There is a green bean choice only.
Which might have gotten peanut on it.
Right. That has been exposed to peanuts. This is a serious consideration if you have those who are suffering from an allergy of some sort, because then you probably need to ask that early on so you don't plan your whole menu.
So you don't plan and shop and then find out.
Then surprise. So, good thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to definitely post this recipe. I'm going to get a hold of this recipe and we'll post it. Do you change anything in the recipe to
I did.
make it different?
When we came back from Holland, I spent a while just Googling, trying to figure out how do you make that amazing, delicious stuff that we ate. And so I found a recipe that I liked, but I changed how I do the chicken. It's probably incredibly not authentic Indonesian. It's just one that I like. And I upped the sauce quite a lot because I like having more sauce on the rice so that it's, because that's where all the flavor is in the sauce. So then you can have a big pile of rice. You can stretch the chicken a little bit. So anyway, I've multiplied the sauce. I think that was my biggest thing I changed in the recipe, and changed how I did the chicken and stuff.
Okay, well, I'll post all of those changes so that we know all of your tips, since you've made this numerous times. We do want the tried and true version.
Yes.
Versus the original version.
Right.
Okay, what is your best prep tip? Like, where do you, when you go to find inspiration, let's say for putting on these menus you do create for a big crowd, what inspires you? Do you just have a bank of recipes that you go to that you've already found, or do you try new things? Where do you find inspiration?
I actually think that this is something that I do think a lot of people overlook. There are so many resources out there, and you can get stuck in a really tiny little rut of things that you cook. And I actually this morning I thought this is almost like a parody of itself. Somebody posted it's been reposted, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of times, this woman's recipe inspiration, and it was sort of like, this is amazing to get you out of your menu rut, here are some ideas. And it's just notebook page after notebook page after notebook page of every single one is chicken in a crock pot with like a packet of ranch and maybe some cream cheese. And then in this one, there's maybe Fritos, or in this one, there's tater tots. And in this one, it's barbecue sauce. And in this one, but it is literally, I just thought, this is not getting out of a rut.
Inspiration.
It's not inspiration, and it's not getting out of a rut. It's like you actually don't know how to do anything but put 3 ingredients in a crock pot. And then that's the whole day. That's the whole thing. So anyway.
And it basically all tastes the same. You've changed one ingredient.
That was the thing. I was like, this appears to be the same recipe 700 times in a row. But it was like, so many people posted that because it was like, look at all the amazing things that you could do with chicken in a crock pot.
Right. And if you want to expand your wheelhouse, you really do have to think about different meats and different types of foods, whether it's soups and stews or a roast or pasta dish or something with noodles, or you do have to think about something besides serving the same a crock pot chicken every time, because some of those people are going to overlap. Like just thinking about all the college kids you serve.
Yeah.
If you have an all-college picnic, well, the freshmen are also there, and you serve them freshman dinner 2 weeks before.
Totally, yeah.
You don't want to all be eating crock pot chicken every time.
And there's so much stuff that you can learn just for free and easily available. It's just you have to look. So I remember early on, I don't know, we'd been maybe married 5 years or something. I joined a cookbook club where it was, you get to pick like 3 for free or something, and then 1 a month.
I remember the book clubs back in the day.
Yeah. And that was fantastic, actually, because then when the cookbook comes, it's very different than like you find, like, let's say you're thinking, I'm in the mood to make an enchilada. So you Google how to make an enchilada, and then you're just looking at that. Mm-hmm. If you actually read a cookbook, mm-hmm. you can really learn a ton, and you're exposed to a bunch of things you probably never thought of before. And some of those might turn out to become, you experiment, you learn, you grow, you get better at stuff, and that might send you down a whole new trail. So I feel like that's a really good thing to do, is don't just look for a specific recipe you already know about, but be willing to like read a cookbook. Actually, mm-hmm. we just got back yesterday from a trip, and while I was on this trip, I bought a cookbook, which I read basically cover to cover on on the trip. And I was telling Ben, like, it's been a long time since I've bonded with cookbooks to this extreme.
You might have to tell us which cookbook this is.
It was called The Herb Farm.
Oh, and
fun. It's all about growing and cooking with herbs. But see, there again, it's a really weird kind of niche thing, but mm-hmm. it's like, I would love to know more about that, and I really don't know a lot about it, so I'm going to read and
even if
figure it out.
Is a niche thing, it's so applicable to every recipe you make. You could make it applicable. Like, even if it's very detailed, you can take what you learn, this herb goes really well paired with this meat or whatever, and you can add fresh herbs.
Totally.
To
and
what you get.
And there's so much that I learned that I was like, I have to go back through this with Post-it notes. It's just going to be really important.
We will have another podcast with Bekah.
I know.
Where she will be sharing all of her updated fresh herb ideas.
I know. So, but there's just things that, like, he talked about oven roasting tomatoes for a really long time to add to different things. And it's like, okay, I'm totally trying that. That sounds interesting. Also, mm-hmm. I wouldn't have thought of it, and and maybe I hate it, but at least I will have tried. And I do think social media is a really easy way mm-hmm. to get better at stuff. It's an easy way to suck your soul out and waste your day.
Waste all your time. Or it could bring some gems into your life.
It really could.
Depending on
just
if you're
decide
wise
to
with
follow some people on Instagram who this is what they do, and you don't have to make every single recipe, but you might see something that looks totally new, something you haven't ever encountered before, and then just try it out, and you might,
Well, and the
worst
other thing
case scenario, you have a dinner you didn't really like, and that's not too much of a tragedy.
Exactly. Try those out on your family before inviting the guests over. Well, another thing about social media that I enjoy, whether it's, Instagram or YouTube or something like that, is you can actually see it, and it's a visual of these. So, like, let's say there's terminology you don't understand, or somebody's telling you to, I don't know, brine or saute or whatever mm-hmm. it is that you're mm-hmm. like, no, what does that mean? What do they mean to do? And how, or chop it a certain way. So sometimes there's cooking terms that you may not be familiar with, but if you see it in action, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I know, I do that, I know how to do that, or I can do it.
Yeah, or you just learn a new skill. And there's, mm-hmm. I don't know, a few people I follow on Instagram just for that, because mm-hmm. There's that one Turkish lady that has so many followers. I don't know, she's very famous, but she does. Now I'm pulling my phone out to tell you who it is, because
you have to share her name.
It's like,
if she has so many followers and I don't follow her, I probably
should.
You
need to find out. She does beautiful cooking videos.
Well, and like you said, it's sometimes I'll hear a term and I'll see it and I'm like, oh, I know how to do that. I just call it something different. But there are plenty of times where it's like, ooh, that's something new. I need to add that to my repertoire.
So this is I don't know how you should say it. Turkuaz Kitchen, like Turkuaz Kitchen.
Okay.
And each recipe she posts like in English and in Turkish, I think. But it's gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. And she does
on
videos.
Instagram?
She's on Instagram, and she does everything in these kind of like very old-fashioned little by hand kind of, like a little hand crank mixer and stuff. So they're very artsy. Mm-hmm. But the food actually looks really delicious, and it's stuff where you're like, okay, I didn't know that you could whip out your own fresh mozzarella, but I would like to try.
I will do that to up my game in pizza.
Yeah, absolutely. So and it's just good to, I don't know, broaden your horizons and always be looking and trying to get better. And so I think there's just so many resources to do that. And don't just fall into the one casserole after another.
Mm-hmm. I think when you do search for new inspiration like that, it gets you out of your rut. I think it's mid-August right now, or towards late August as we're recording this, and that's about the time that I feel like I never want to cook again. Do I know how to cook anything?
Exactly.
I have no inspiration. Nothing sounds good. It's 90 something outside, and so I usually have to break out a new cookbook or find a new recipe or something, and then all of a sudden I'm back in the game.
Completely.
So when you shop for a crowd, now obviously if you're shopping for 400 people for an NSA dinner, you're not shopping at the local Walmart. I wouldn't imagine.
I have before. That's not fun. It's like all the Walmarts in the region.
Right. You're having a lot of substitutes.
Exactly.
So where would you shop for a large crowd? Now, obviously, when we say large, if you're shopping for 20, your local grocery store would fit the bill. Can handle it.
That's true. But, for shopping, I do... we have very limited shopping here, so you only have so many options. I do drive to Lewiston, which is like 30 miles away, to go to the restaurant supply often. So if you live in a place where you have a restaurant supply, hit that up, because that's a really good resource. You can buy things in larger quantities. It's not always the best deal though, so sometimes you should double check that. But they do have it in bigger quantities, which is much more convenient. Nobody wants to open 300 tiny cans of green chilies, but you could open 2 of the big, huge, huge cans.
That would be a huge time saver.
Yeah, so it's also good for things like just kitchen supplies if you need weirdly specific, like I need really big soup pots for my, or the long-handled ladle, so anyway, I would go there and see what they have.
Just kind of stock up for whatever your particular event needed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there are restaurant supplies online. Of course, the one I looked at the most recently, it did have a shipping fee, which you would expect, but this particular one, the more you bought, the fee went down.
Oh, okay.
So that was nice, but it would be one of those things where maybe you'd want to have multiple things that you were buying to make the shipping worth it.
Totally. And I've done that for supplies, use the online stuff. I don't know that I have for ingredients as much, but
that's true. They may not ship.
Yeah, because you'd be paying a lot for the weight.
For a giant can of beans or chilies
But I have used Amazon before for things like when I needed an absurd amount of chia seeds for something.
Yes, and Amazon shipping.
Or it was black sesame seeds. That's what it was. And we have Amazon Prime, so you can get that.
Amazon, a lot of places, a lot of the bigger retail places do ship free now, depending on.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to have membership. Other times it's just if you meet a certain dollar amount.
Yeah.
So, if you spend $25 or $35, then they'll ship it for free, which if you're shopping for a large event is not hard to do.
Yeah.
In fact, some of the larger warehouses also do that. I know Sam's Club does if you are a member.
Okay.
Maybe you have to be a Plus member. Anyway, they do a lot of shipping for free. Of course, that wouldn't be fresh food. It would be, but their dried goods and things.
The butcher, just find a butcher, because I do that a lot. You can do it through grocery stores. That's another thing, is you can order things through your grocery stores. I've done that with a number of the local ones where it's like, actually, can I buy a large amount of this particular cut of pork, or I need a huge box of kumquats or something. So talk to the produce manager or the butcher counter guy. But we have a butcher here in town that I use all the time for event things, because it's actually a really great price, and they know what they're talking about when you need to ask them about cuts of meat and things like that. So I did one time order 20, I don't know, it was probably 20 crown roasts of pork, and I think they're still having PTSD from that, because
never again. If you see her coming, close the department.
I know. And they're like, you're the crown ground roasted pork lady. I'm like, yes, I am.
That's me.
Because they have to sew them together, into that shape. And so, oh man.
So they ordered them and then had to put them together for you.
Them,
wow.
And into the
Well, maybe the sale made it worth their while.
Yeah,
but no, that's a great tip too, because I would not have known that you could go to your favorite local grocery store that has, well, I mean, obviously everybody has a produce department, but if they had a butcher, if you got to be friendly with that person and knew what your order was ahead of time. And
well, the other thing you can do is just seriously, if they're having a sale on a cut of meat, just go to the counter and say, I'd like to get whatever. Even if you just are going to put it in the freezer, they will usually hook you up with that. And
that's
I've gotten,
nice.
And sometimes, usually they can get it in like by the next morning, while the sale's still on, and you can go pick it up and get it for a good deal. So even if you're just trying to pack your freezer.
Wow. Great tip. All right. Cleaning up from these events. Sometimes we talk about these amazing events with all the delicious food, and it just, sounds just wonderful. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, hosting, even feeding your own family is work. That you have to, there's a lot of work and thought that goes into it. Hosting a crowd also takes work.
It does.
So do you have, when you think about, say cleanup, the reality is you're going to have lots of dirty dishes and dirty tablecloths and just a whole host of things. What do you do there? Besides just shut the door and go to bed.
Well, I do often. I do. And you know what? I feel like that is okay. I think sometimes people get in such a hang up about getting it all cleaned up right this second that your guests might feel a little rushed out if you're stressing about getting everything cleaned up right this minute.
Right.
And so sometimes it's like, it's fine. No, don't worry about it. We'll leave it. We'll get it later, kind of a thing. And then, it's like the mess will be there in the morning. I mean, it's sometimes that you're creating a lot more work for yourself if you don't just do it right now.
If you don't scrape the dishes.
But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, just turn on a podcast and roll your sleeves up and enjoy your morning of cleaning up. And one lady said to me, this was about a wedding that they had at their house. She was telling me this because we had a wedding at our house. But she said she just went to bed and left it all. And she said, and you know what? It was really fun the next day because as she kind of wandered around and was cleaning stuff up, she's like, you're just remembering it. You're remembering the event. And you're just, as you're going through and picking it up. So I think there's sometimes a sort of a panicky rush to get it cleaned up, which, is great if you can. But sometimes it's like,
but like you're saying, if it's an event that goes long and you're going to make your guests feel like they need to leave or just uncomfortable in some way, then just let it go.
Let it go. And because if you kill yourself staying up till 2 a.m, you're going to actually resent the event. Sure. Because you're like, look how it almost killed me. I couldn't go to bed till 2. It's like, what? It's all right.
Right. Just wait.
Yeah.
Or there's been times when at the end everybody goes and I'll just quickly, maybe rinse and stack dishes and then let the dishwasher run the next day.
Totally.
And not, like you're saying, he doesn't, unless you have another event for breakfast.
Which might happen
Most of the time they can sit and you can slowly get it cleaned up over a day or two.
And sometimes, I do like to, some of the events I do, it's going to be disposable. So like soup night, I just want to be able to throw it away. I don't want to be trying to handle 50 place settings the next day. Like that's too much for a weekly thing. Most of the time though, if I have company over, I'm not going to be serving them on paper plates. It's going to be real dishes. But sometimes there are ways of minimizing your cleanup. I would never put a foil pan. I shouldn't say never. I would really try to not put a foil pan on the table. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I am not at all opposed to cooking it in a foil pan and then
scooping
it into a pretty serving dish and then throwing that thing away, or store things in Ziploc bags. If you prep in advance, just put it and then just throw them away as you go. So sometimes I do try to minimize the impact, the crater, the level of crater that it will cause.
Well, and speaking of cooking in a tinfoil pan, you can throw that away and not have to scrub it. If you're serving dishes, much easier to clean up real quick if it hasn't been baked in for hours.
And I do buy parchment sheets at the restaurant supply, which is a horrible expense the first time you do it because it's like $50. But you don't have to buy more for years. Yeah, it's like a huge stack, and then I use it
And they're flat, so they don't curl, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Because if
'cause
you
it's
buy
not
the
coming off the
parchment roll,
Yeah.
you always have to deal with the edges curling.
And you're always tearing it, and it never tears evenly,
No.
and you did it a little too short. And so I just have a drawer with those, and I use them on a daily basis for everything, and it just makes cleanup so much better, because if it's cookies, I just throw away the parchment and sling the cookie sheet back in the drawer, and that's it.
You don't have to wash it.
Yeah, if it's like chicken, it might have gotten a bit of juice, but you basically just give it a quick rinse and it's clean. It's not like chiseling off a bunch of stuff.
The times I have forgotten to line my pans when cooking chicken or something like that, it's a regret.
It's a regret, I know.
It's a sad regret. Speaking of reliving the experience as you're doing the dishes, I'm chastising myself as I scrub that chicken-coated pan. Just a quick note on disposables. When I helped her with the freshman breakfast a week or two ago, her disposables were beautiful. I mean, you can grab paper plates from Walmart or Target or wherever you shop, but did you get those from the restaurant supply?
I did. I think so. I might have ordered them, but if I did, I ordered them from a restaurant supply. But you don't, just because it's disposable, I don't think means it needs to be unattractive. So usually if I'm doing something like that, I do try and still make it cute and appealing, because that does make the food taste better. Like if you feel like, ooh, look at that, that looks really fun, you enjoy it more than if it's sort of like splayed out on a, So the one I'm doing this week, the picnic, will also be disposable. But that one I've gotten I've done different things. We did like the boxes, little takeout boxes that you sort of pack up with things.
Yes, so just as a quick note for not the picnic, for the breakfast, it was in this cute takeout box that, I don't know, was checkered or plaid or something. And then inside, she filled it with all of the different parts of the breakfast. So in one corner was a plastic cup with a yogurt parfait, and the silverware wrapped in a napkin was standing up in the corner next to that. And then there was another little small throwaway dish.
Yeah, like a little paper boat kind of a little thing.
That had some...
That had the little egg
omelets.
Potato crust, little potato crust quiches. Yeah,
they're so cute. And then she tucked some bacon in front of that. There was one more thing. It seems like
cinnamon roll.
Yeah. Oh, how could I forget?
Yeah, and we did the cinnamon rolls. I ordered those tulip liners, like cupcake liners, but they're the prettier versions.
Yes,
and again,
it looked like a cute, like the type of it was. We set it in something that looked like something you would get from a bakery.
Yeah. Exactly.
Cute little paper type cup.
Yeah. So you can, just tulip liners. You can get those on Amazon.
Tulip liners.
So, and you can do those for muffins or cupcakes. It just takes it up a little bit of a notch. So, anyhow, I try to make it still be a little bit fun and interesting, even if it's throw the whole thing away when you're done.
Yes, and that's what we did for the cleanup for that breakfast, which she said was 99 students. There, it was more people than that, because we had everyone who was helping serve in the kitchen, but also a few adults were there for the event. So well over 100 people, and cleanup was done lickety-split.
Yeah.
Because we just...
Totally.
Everybody threw everything in the trash, and we washed some dishes, and we were all out of there before noon, and it's kind of wild.
Exactly.
Now that y'all have all this free time, anybody want to come to my house? Might still be some dishes needing to be done over there.
Exactly.
Okay, so what is your best advice for showing warm hospitality to those coming into your home?
Well, I guess the first thing is just do it. And it will be frustrating. There will be things that go wrong. There will be things that guests who are not as easy to host as you wished they were. There will just be things. So just be ready to have a good attitude and roll with it and laugh instead of being so stressed that everything go perfectly.
And on that note, there will be guests, not ghosts.
Hopefully no ghosts, but you never know.
There will be guests who say awkward things.
Yeah.
And realize I've had to recognize that, because I know I say awkward things when you're just, maybe you're nervous or somebody comes in your home and they just say something awkward, and don't take that personal, know.
Yeah. You just
when you say sometimes people do or say things that you're just a little surprised at. most of the time they're
just
not even
put it in a file
recognizing
of
it.
funny stories that I may not be able to tell anyone.
Right.
But maybe I can tell my husband and we can have a good
Right.
laugh. Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing that back when my kids were littler that I did that I was really pleased with this. I felt like I'd really landed on a genius thing. Is it was really hard when I had a bunch of little kids, and if you're having over another family with little kids, to be able to have any conversation at the table if you've got like 9 or 10 elementary students and 4 adults, it's like difficult.
Right.
And so I started doing this where I would do like, it was basically a separate party for the kids.
Very fun.
It was great. It was really fun because I would buy something that I never let the kids, we just never ate it. It'd be like Hot Pockets or corn dogs or something that I just never got.
Food.
But they felt like was amazing. It was like, no, we're having Hot Pockets. And it was just like, for them, it was a treat and it was interesting. And I would do that for the kids. Pack them all up, speaking of like these little takeout boxes.
Yes.
I would pack them up in like little brown bags, like a lunch bag. Mm-hmm. And, you'd put grapes and cookies and a boxed drink and their Hot Pocket and
fun.
Who knows what. And we would rent a movie for them to watch and they would have their own kid party. And it was great because it meant that my kids had to host it. It was like they had to, we'd talk about like how you're going to do it and then you can take
They had their own guests.
Pick the stuff up. And then you can actually have an adult menu for 4, because that's the other thing is when you're cooking for a bunch of kids, it's like, okay, we're all going to have hot dogs tonight or whatever. But if you can do something that's more fun and interesting and elegant or whatever you want to do, or maybe it's just more of an adult palate,
sure.
And you can do that for the parents and have an actual conversation while the kids are having their own fun party upstairs or whatever.
Excellent idea. I love that idea. That is so fun. And if you're new to it, then that makes it a little more doable.
Yeah.
If you're creating a menu for 4 adults, then it's maybe a little bit easier than if you're trying to feed 12 people.
Yeah, and it's like you can set the table a little more nicely. You can do wine. It could just be a different kind of party than you would. Because you don't really do adult dinner parties when you have a heap of kids on board.
Right.
But this was
you're
kind of
usually
a way
serving, so you're thinking of kids first.
Yeah, you are.
I mean, you're thinking, what do they like? What will they eat? Because you don't want to create, I don't want to create a big disciplined moment.
No,
when they come to my house. They can be forced to eat their squash and peas at their mom's house. But
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I try to think of something
you're trying
that
to do something that's
enjoy.
their level. Mm-hmm. And so it's just kind of that for me made it easier to like pick an interesting menu to do with the adults and still have the kids have a fun time.
Very fun idea. Very fun idea. Okay, so any more tips that you can think of? I mean, I know you have loads more, so I may have to have you. I will have to have you back, but
I'll probably repeat the same ones because I won't remember what I said.
That's
this time.
okay. We all have short-lived memories.
I'll be like, hey, what I
listeners
did
won't remember
when my kids were little? Sometimes
a brown bag dinner.
You'll have to cut me off.
I'll edit this later, guys. Okay. Yeah. What is your must-have kitchen item?
Okay, well, my current one that you did tell me I had to talk about.
Yes, I did tell her she didn't really have a choice.
Under instructions, everyone. So I have started having dish towels made, and I actually am really fond of them because I have such a pet peeve about dish towels that don't dry your dishes, because like you get a cute dish towel.
Worst.
And it smears water around, it doesn't dry.
Yes.
And that's very frustrating. Mm-hmm. Or you get nice absorbent ones, but they're just kind of blah, not very interesting. So anyway, after a lot of fiddling around, I did have some made initially, and they were the worst. They were the ones that smear it around. And it was just
something
a cotton.
About the fabric is wrong.
Yeah, it was cotton, but it was just a woven cotton. And it was just not it. And so I spent too much time thinking about this. And I was like, what I need is whatever cotton they use for diapers, cloth diapers.
How did you arrive at this point?
Soft, absorbent.
Once you try these towels, you will be glad that she arrived at this point.
Because they are soft and absorbent, and it's 100% cotton. But I found a guy in India who was willing to do the bird's eye weave for me, so he weaves this cotton for me.
So amazing.
And then I have designed different designs to put on them, so they are actually cute, and yet they are absorbent.
Yes, they are so pretty. I think I have one of each style.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I do. And I don't know if I would say they're so much floral as just a design.
Yeah.
Would you say floral design?
Yeah, there's one that's got flowers, and then there's one that's more of just a design, and a few that are just,
But they're just gorgeous, and they really up the level of your kitchen decor, I would say.
And it's kind of, I feel like it's
really pretty.
Handy because it's a dish towel. You're not committing to a whole scheme for your house. It's not like a couch. You didn't buy a vivid floral couch. It's just a dish towel.
Right. You can have an aqua and white dish towel.
You're not
or
like committing
a
for life.
multicolored dish towel versus,
I know.
Yeah, so really the towels she has, whatever color scheme your kitchen is, it will go. They will match. They're beautiful, and what I love about them is not only are they beautiful hanging on the handle of your stove or wherever you put your towels, but as she mentioned, they are functional. You can grab them and use them to actually use. They're not just eye candy.
I have put the hurt on mine. It's a rough life in my kitchen, as you know. It's like you have to be rugged to survive, and they are hanging in there. They are. I've stained some sort of irreparably because turmeric, I don't know. If you use turmeric at all, it will get on every single fabric in your whole life. It will get on it. I don't know why, but it does, and then it never comes out.
Well, hot tip, whether this will work on turmeric, is it turmeric? Turmeric. Whether it'll work on this or not, but if you catch stains early, OxyClean is if you obviously you're just using yours so much, you probably just, don't. Seeing as how I don't have piles and piles of her towels, so if I got a spice stain on mine, I would be dashing to the OxyClean.
Quick.
Anyway, you put OxyClean in a bowl or a bucket, and there's instructions on there, but you can soak including color things. It's not a bleach. It's a stain remover.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten massive amounts of stains out.
Yeah,
with
you're right.
That. It's really nice. So that was a side note. Back to the more important topic at hand, towels. Don't let me forget that what I'm super excited about. So I have all the towels, but now there's more things on my list, my wish list that I want, because she now also has designed hot pads and napkins.
That's right.
Anything else?
That's right.
Am I missing?
That's all I have at the moment. I've got 4 different dish towel designs, and then the hot pads, and then the napkins. Yeah, and the hot pads I'm currently using, and I'm like, you know what? They're they're like the kind your grandma would have. Like they're just cotton with cotton. They're not like the ultra silicone you could put your hand in a boiling pot of water and never feel it. I mean, they're just hot pads.
Right.
So if you take your cookie sheet out, you're gonna feel like the warmth through it. But it's just a useful little. I feel like I didn't do mitts because they take up more room. I don't know. I just feel like I might do mitts next time. Well, I'll see.
Well,
I'm experimenting.
It's kind of a work in progress, so stay tuned. There potentially on the next time she comes on, there potentially will be an entire list of new things. She might have branched out into mitts and table runners.
There's too many things that I actually would really love to design, and there's just not enough time or, whatever in the world. But who knows? Maybe
when the new St. Andrews events slow down just a bit, you can throw some mitts onto the pile.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Of things to design. Okay, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast and sharing all of your tips. I have learned so much, and I'm definitely going to print this recipe ASAP.
I will get it to you. Yes.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
Thank you.